Hello everyone, welcome. Now in this series we're going to be creating a quiz app. We're going to use Vue and Tailwind, and then we're going to fetch the questions from an API. If this is the first time watching my video, you're welcome. For those of you that have always been here, thank you. You know I don't like to waste time to start my video, but I just want to take this time to say that this is kind of like an intermediate level. So if you're a beginner, if you've not used Vue before, I'd suggest you watch my previous video where we created the weather app. Because this series we're going to be building on that. We're going to be building on that previous video. So without wasting time, let's get started. So we're going to be working on this design here. I initially put on my social media 4 different designs for you guys to choose one. And this very first one was the selected one. So I have my VS Code opened. And I created a folder called Quiz App Vue, and then we're going to be creating our Vue app inside this folder. So in my terminal, I'm going to type Vue create and put a dot. Now what this dot means is that we're going to create the Vue app in this current directory. Now if you want to create it in another folder, then you just go ahead and put the name of the folder. But we're not going to do that, so I'm just put the dot and I'll hit enter. It's going to ask me if I want to create in the current directory. Say yes. And then we're going to pick some options here. I'll go to manually select features. Pick Vue router, put Vuex. We might not use the Vue router, but just pick it just in case we want to build up on this. Hit enter. I'm going to choose the version 3. And I'll say yes. In case you want to use history mode. And for my formatter, I'll pick the last option here that says yes, lint and prettier. And I would like to lint and save. So anytime we save, it does the error checking. And I'll choose dedicated config files. I want to save this for future projects. Say no. So that will take a while to download all the files you need for your for the app. So when that is done, I'll get back. Okay, so that is done. So what I'm going to do is I'll head over to the Tailwind website. And I'll click on get started. Look at installation. And then I'll click on Vue 3. That's going to take us to the installation for Vue 3. So we've already done this first step here where you create your project. The next thing is for us to install Tailwind using npm. So I'll just copy all of this code and I'll go to my VS Code. I'll just paste that here. Oops, paste that in the terminal, hit enter. So that's going to install this for us. So while that is going on, let's head back to the website. So the next thing we need to do is that we need to create these 2 config files, one for Tailwind and one for post CSS. Now with this command, those 2 files will be created for us. So I'll just copy this, and while this is still running, let's just wait for it to finish. So that's done. I'll paste that command, I'll hit enter. So you're going to see those 2 files will be created here in a moment. Okay, good. So we have those 2 files there. Let's head back to the website. And in those 2 files, we have, let's see, we're supposed to have this and this other one for the post CSS. So let's just skip the step. The next thing is we need to configure Tailwind to remove unused styles in production. I'm not going to do this for now. I'm just skip to the step that says we should include Tailwind in our CSS. So let's create a CSS. So I'll go to source. Let's go to assets and I'll just create a new file. I'll call it styles.css. You know what? Let me create a folder. Let's call it style, or let's just call it CSS. And in that folder, I'll create a file called styles.css. And I'm also going to create another file called custom.css. I'm going to explain why I did this in a moment. So let's go back to styles, the CSS, and then let's head back to the browser. Now I'm going to copy these 3 lines of code because this is what imports Tailwind into the CSS. So let's head back to our browser, our VS Code. I'll paste that in my styles.css and I'll save. So what this does is that it imports Tailwind into this particular CSS file, and for us to be able to use this CSS file in our app, I'm going to go to main.js, and just after everything here, let me say import, let's say art assets, and say css and styles.css. Now this art is synonymous with this source folder, so we can use that, or I could use a relative path this way. Okay, so let's save this, and what I want to do now is just to run this server. Like, let's spin up the server and have a look at what we have. So npm run serve, so that will spin up the Vue CLI server and also make sure that our lint is working. So let's give some time to load. Okay, so that's done loading. So take this link and open a new tab, just paste that. Okay, now to be sure that we properly linked our Tailwind, let's go to one of the Vue files. Let's go to app.vue. I'm going to get rid of all these other things here, get rid of all these styles. Let me get rid of this. Only what I'm going to leave here is the router view. Okay, so I'm going to go to views, open this views folder, go to home. I can actually have my design in the app.vue, but because I included Vue, that's Vuex, the Vue router, so it came along with this kind of structure. In this home, I'm going to get rid of, let's say, everything here, and just let's clean everything. And let's say template, and I have my main tag here, and here I'm going to just put a p tag, and let's color it red. Let's say test if Tailwind is working. Now this just is how Tailwind does your stuff. So you can see that text is red, so our Tailwind is working. So I'll get rid of this. So now let us start working on our quiz app. Okay, so let's go ahead and create that. So what I'll do is I'll just make some little adjustments to this so that we can kind of like see a preview of what we're doing as we're working on it. So we just make this smaller to the side. So let's say let's create a comment and create the quiz container here. So this div is going to be the card, the one that has the rounded and has a shadow. So say bg white. Let me give it my own class of container, just so I can play around with it if I want. Give it a shadow, a large shadow. For now, let's make it rounded. I forgot to include rounded large. So in here, I'm going to have the question. So I can say question container. Okay, so I'll say div. Let's say rounded large. Let's give it it's kind of gray, beige gray. And then let's just give a padding because there's another white div inside there. So I'll say div beige white. Let me give this a padding of 5, and let me just type inside what was the question again. The most powerful Avenger in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Okay. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so we have that going for us. What I'll do is in this container, let's add a padding in the X direction so that everything is streamlined like so. And we just add this little padding in the Y direction. So they have this shadow thing going for all of them. So I'm going to just add like an embedded style here so that we can reuse that style. So just say style, and let's just make it scoped so it really affects this one. I may move it later to where I have my custom styles. So I'll say new morph, because this kind of follows the trend of neomorphism. You can check that out to see what it's all about. So I'll say box shadow. Let's go with 6px. The blur is gonna be more than that, 18. So what I'll do is I won't use a black, but then I'll add some opacity to it. So I'll say RGB A to add alpha channel. So 0 for red, 0 for green, 0 for blue. Then my alpha channel, let's just use 0.09. Then I'm going to add another shadow to this in the other direction, P-6px, and 6ps and 18px, but this is gonna be white. So if we save that, let's go and add for the question container. Let's go add the class we just created, neomorph1. So you can see it has that kind of effect to it. Okay, so one thing I want to do is let's just set that center so that it always centers this, and then let's say font bold so that the font is always bold, and let's say text gray. Let's go with 800. Save and turn on my text wrap. Okay, so that looks good enough. So what I'll do here is let's just go down here. Let's have options container or answers container. Then we have option container. And before I do this, let me just create the container for that. And here I'll see. So this will follow like the same trend with this other one we just did. So let's just say div. We can just go ahead and put the new morph. That's one. And let's give it some BG gray 100. Give it some a little padding. Let's say 2. And the other div inside we have class. I have BG white. And let me just type tall in here. So we have that going for us. So let's make the corners rounded. Say rounded large. Do the same thing for this other one. Rounded large. So what I would do here is I'll put text. Rather font bold. Just want it to any text in here will have that bold feel to it. So for my options container, options with S, this one here, add a class. Let's just add let's add some margin to the top. Let's say 8, so there's a little bit of space in between there. And let's see what we gotta do. Create the option. Okay, so let's hit enter here. So what I'll do is here I'll make this a flex so that I can have two divs inside. So one for option, one for the one for the option ID, A, B, C, or D, then the other for the option itself. So let's add flex to this. In here, let's call this option ID. CBG gray 400, and let's add some, say pi 3. Just put A inside there, and now say option name. Makes sense. Let's put the div here. Let me just type Tor here for now. Save. Okay, we'll see what we have. So for this option ID, I'll make it rounded large. That should do it. So for the Tor, I just want it to be centralized, like it was in the design. So what I'll do here is I'll add say class of flex, and let's say items center. See, okay, so that comes out. I'll just a padding to the left hand side just to move that a bit. Okay, so that does that. So let's see what we're missing. Okay, so there's a little padding in the, like before the option ID. So add a padding to this. I'll say P2. So that brings it in just a bit. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just copy this option. Let's copy this whole option here. Let's see, where did it stop? So I'll just copy all of this. You know what, let me just, okay, it's fine. Copy all of that. If I save, we're going to see duplicate of that. What I'll do is I'll add a margin bottom. I'm going to do it for the two of them. Oops. Let's just add a margin bottom of 3. Okay, just so that there's a space there. So this is going to be like our wrong option. So this bit that is white needs to be red, like so. Let's check. Yeah, like so. Let's make this 900. Oops, too dark. 600. Okay, and then we need to make the text to be white. Okay, so all the text need to be white. What I'll do here is BG. Okay, so I can put text white here. So that should affect the two of them, and then I need to change this one to, let's say text gray 800. Good. So we're done with this one. So let's work on the for when we have a correct option. Let's open up the browser too. Where is it? Okay. So just copy this again. So let me just save that so we can see. So this will be for when it's correct. And when it's correct, here needs to be green. Let's make the green a little bit darker. Let's go with 700, that's fine. But for the correct option, let's see, we have this blue thing here. So let's add that also. Go back to my code, go back to my browser. We're gonna do that. We're going to add another div, and then we're going to position it to that place. So we're going to use absolute, and then we're going to use relative for the parent. So we're going to make this one, the container is going to be the parent. So we'll add a relative class there, just so it acts like an anchor to the one we're going to be positioning. So I'm going to add the blue div. So div bg blue, let's say 500. Let me just type plus 10 inside there. Okay, let me add some, say P1. And what I want to do, I want to rotate it. So I'll say transform, rotate 45 degrees, and I want to make it rounded. Let's go rounded mid. Let's save and see what we have. Okay, that's actually too big. Okay, so since that is too big, I'm going to specify the height, the height and the width of the scale of 10. Okay, you can see that comes out a bit. So let's make the text, say text white, font bold. I'm just going to make it a little bit the blue darker. So one of the things you're going to notice is that the 10 is also rotated. So what we could do is we could rotate it back negative 45 degrees. So it's going to go back to what it was before. So let's put the 10 in a p tag, but the class is now going to be transform, and I'll put this is how you do negative in Tailwind if you want to use the classes. So you put the negative before the class name, say rotate 45. So that turned it the other way back. So I'm going to make that because it now it's expanding the the options. So we're going to put a position of absolute. Let's say absolute. So now we can position it where we want. So I want to go to the right. Let's say right 0. Then let's take it up a bit. So I could say top 0. Okay, I think that's fine. If you want to take it a little bit tight up a bit, you can use negative. So we put that in front of the top. Let's make it that's too much. I think the top 0 was fine. I'll leave it in top 0 for now. It's fine where it is. Okay. Let's add some shadow. Let's say medium shadow is fine. Okay, so we're done with the correct and the wrong option. So let's just add the last one, which is going to be like the default option. Let's head back to our code. I'm going to copy the first one we have here. Let's just change these names. What names it? Maybe Store, Dr. Strange, Miss Marvel, Hawk. To Dr. Strange. So Miss Marvel. And the last but not the least is going to be Hulk with the letter D. Okay, for you, okay, good. So let me carefully minimize the options container. Okay, so I will have the progress indicator container. So I say div, let's just add some margin at the top. So margin 8, that should be fine. And I would like to centralize anything I have in here, so I can say text center, because I have all text. So let's say P, save and see what we have. Okay, so I'm going to create a div on top of that. So div, I'll make the height to be 1. I'll make the width, let's say 12. Let's give it a B degree of 800. Add the rounded class so that the corners look rounded. I'm going to make it rounded full. To take the div to the center, we use MX Auto. So let's make this font a little bit bold. And let's specify the color so it doesn't take any color from the parent. Okay, so we have that done already. So what else do we have to do? Okay, so let's work on this top portion where we have that's going to be the timer, and then we have the score by the top right. So let's head back to all this. So now we need to go all the way to the top. Okay. I'm gonna call this timer container. I'll create a div with BG white to give it a shadow of large, and it's gonna have some padding and rounded full. Let me make it the width to be full also. Then in here we're gonna have the other div that is blue. So let's say BG blue is 700, and it's also rounded full. Okay, let's add width. Let's specify the width. Let's say width 11/12. So I'm gonna add some heights to the parent div, and then for the child div, I'll make the height to be full so that it fills up all the available space it might have. So let me just tweak the height. Let's tweak the height and the padding of that parent div. Okay, so that looks good. Okay, that's fine enough. Then I'm going to give it, you know what, let me add the margin top to the question. Margin top 8. So that gives a nice space in between that. So we have that there. So the next thing we're going to do is the score at the top. Let's say score container. So let's create a parent div, and we say text right. So all the text goes to the right. Then we specify the color of text gray 800. In there we're going to type, let's add a class of text small. So it's small, and then reduce the line height using leading. Then we'll put score, and then we're going to actually add the score itself. Just put a class of font bold so that it looks bold. Okay, so the font is bold. So for this, the timer container, I'll add a margin top. So margin top of 4. Okay, that's fine enough. Let's see what we're trying to achieve. Okay, that's fine. So now we need to work on this this kind of like image at the top. Let me kind of make the container smaller. So we have the quiz container here. So I'll go to the bottom where you have the style tag and create a new style for the container class. Say max width. Just reduce the max width to 400. So that will make the card look a little bit smaller. And then I would make the corners rounded using border radius. They're already rounded, but just to make it more rounded. So to centralize the container div, I'll go to the main tag, add the class of flex, and I'll specify the height of H screen. So H screen is the height of whatever the screen is going to be. And then the child div is also stretched, so I'll go to the child div and add a flex none to make it not too stretch. And then I'll go back and add item center and justify center. So that will justify the child div in the center of the parent. So there we go. You have that centralized. So just to make it more pronounced, I'll add a BG of gray 100 in the background so that the card is a bit pronounced. So that looks nice already. So let's work on that image part at the top. So I already have the assets, so let me get the assets. I guess in this abstract. So what I would do is come to my assets folder. Let's review in browser. I can create a folder in there. and let's place that inside there. So we're going to make some changes so that we can position that image. So one of the changes we're going to make is that we're going to group everything we have now inside div. So from score container, just going to minimize that so we see the timer container, just make that smaller. Just want to minimize everything because we want to place everything inside a div. The reason is that so that when I place the image, I can layer the other content at the top of the image. Because this effect that we have, let me show you, where this core is kind of like at the top of the image. So I'm sure there are other ways you can achieve this, but just the way I would just want to do it. So we have this done already. So let's just create the div here, and then I'll move every other thing inside it. Just so this is not confusing. I'll add a comment here that says contents. Okay, so for this quiz container, I'm going to give it a position of relative so that we can position the things inside it, and then it's going to act like an anchor. So our content is going to have a class, and we're going to give it a position of relative, and then I'm going to add the z index. Just give the z index of, let's say, 20, so that it's a little bit at the top. And then I'll add the image tag just above that. Just reference the source. What's the name? Abstract.svg. So make sure you have that in your assets folder. So it could be any image, but I'm using this image I designed. So you can see that there. So we're going to change the positioning so that it doesn't expand the card. So add a class and a position of absolute. So just add the absolute class, or position it using the top 0 class and let's say left 0. Okay, so we have that there. I'm actually going to move it up. So let's make negative top. Okay, so that it kind of goes out. But now I want to clip it. So I'm going to use the card to clip it. So I'll go to the card and add a class that says overflow hidden. So this is going to clip anything that overflows it. So you can see it has clipped there. And then I need to expand it. So what I'll do, I'll go to the image, I'll add a class of let's see, object none. So that would remove the object fit so that it appears the way it's meant to be. And then as it's appearing like that, the container is clipping. So you can see we already have that design already working for us. So in the next video, we're going to be applying custom styles, and then we're going to design in such a way that we can be able to take care of when the answers are correct and wrong. So see you in the next video.